guys, welcome back. So we are gonna take another adventure today. Today's adventure is gonna be a realistic scene. I took a vote and realistic scene won by a landslide. So I'm gonna be drawing a steam engine today, hopefully. We're gonna try it, and then we're going to use markers and color pencils to color it in. Now I do have a reference picture for this one, and yeah, let's get started. See, I've got to see where I want. Thinking here is going to be the center. Now, where to start? It's always such a intimidating thing on a drawing is to start it. Ooh, that's not going too well. I came up with this idea because there's an there's a spot near my parents' house that has a really picturesque part of the train track. It's almost like a tree tunnel, and it's right by the road, so if you're driving by, you don't have a couple seconds to see it at the right angle. But it is so pretty. There's always like a little foggy part to it, or hazy, whatever you want to call it. But at the right angle, it looks like a spot that could be used on a book cover. It is gorgeous. And it's just, the train track is at the perfect angle, and it's just, oh, it's so picturesque. And I've always wanted to draw or paint it. Let's see. Didn't get that part centered. And so now I'm gonna try to do a drawing of it. Maybe not exactly, but it'll be something. I know what's off. I'm not going around enough. Okay, we're gonna come back and do details on that later because I can't get it right now. That's okay. I don't know if they'll want to go up or down. Probably gonna go up first. So, going to put a square next for, I think, the light. I'm using a black and white reference, so it's not really showing me what this part of the train would be. I think we're gonna go a little bigger. Okay, so that's good. Come in with my eraser pencil. Try to lighten these lines up. I love this thing. It's just a pencil, and instead of graphite, it's eraser. It's awesome. It doesn't do like the best job of erasing unless you draw really light, which I need to work on because I draw too heavy anyway. Had a little bubble. Sometimes my hand just decides to do things that I have no idea what it's doing. When I was little, I would watch Thomas the Tank, and let's say I'd watch it. We had an old tape of it. It was one movie. It was a live action movie. I think it was called Thomas and the Magic Railroad. And that was the cutest movie, and it's where they brought in the train lady, and she was always my favorite character. After I watched that, we discovered that they had these little train sets, and you could get the track, and then you could get Thomas and all of his friends. And I think it was Barnes & Noble. It was either Barnes & Noble or Books A Million that had a whole wall in the kids section just of the Thomas the Tank trains. And a few Sundays we would go there, and we'd go in there, and either my dad or my mom would take me over to look at the trains while my sisters went and looked at music. And each train came with its little card that told like what train it was and had a little thing about them. It was so cute. My oldest sister and I came up with the game when I got a little bit older, to where I wasn't really playing with the track as much. We came up with a game where we would just hide the trains around the house and we'd have to go find them. She would hide them for me and then I would hide them for her. We used to do, our favorite spot to do it in was the pantry. That was the best because we could hide it behind all the cans and all the cereal boxes. It was great. Okay, so I guess it's called a train cab. I don't know if it's called the cab of train, but we're gonna do the main thing now. The main body of the train, there we go. When I still lived at home, on my way to and from work, especially at night, it was always around like 8:30 at night, there would always be a train that I'd meet up with, and it would ride right beside the highway, and I'd stay even with it for a little bit, and maybe about 10 minutes from getting home, I'd finally overtake it and get to the train stop before it did. But I'd always pass it every night. Okay. We may have to alter that. Hoping this will look realistic. Ooh, it's raining. I love the rain. I love the way it sounds on the roof, especially when it rains hard. Now, I don't like lightning and thunder. It has to be just right for me to enjoy. But a gentle rain is nice every once in a while. Let's see. There's all sorts of fancy little things on this train, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna get the details right. I hope I will. I'm gonna try. One year when I was young, we had a story hour at the local library, and they had, I think, Pacific Railroad or Kansas. I don't remember which railroad it was. Anyway, they had one of the railroads come and do a story hour for the kids. And it was so neat because they were telling us about, it was a conductor and an engineer that came. They were telling us all about how the trains work, how the communication works between the engineers and stuff. And we had a few months before that, there was a train that derailed about 30 minutes from our house, and it, we didn't know why it derailed. So whenever they were there, someone asked them what caused that, and they said that the part where the two rails meet, had just gotten weak, and it just gave under the weight of the train. And it was a tanker train, and there was concern that it had been carrying hazardous material, but thankfully it had not, and they were able to clean it up over the next couple weeks. And it wasn't like a super serious derail, it was only a few cars. But for a while, the cars that derailed could still be seen laying in the field. Let's see. So I'm thinking that these little extras are gonna be colored in silver. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what we're gonna do. This is my train, so we're gonna do it how I want to. Let's see here. I always liked watching trains pass by, and sometimes when we'd be on the way to church, we would see trains go by, and we'd always try to count the cars. And anytime we got stuck at a railroad crossing, we would count the cars. And I think I successfully did it like 2 times. I was always so upset that my sisters could do it, but I just couldn't keep track of the cars. And so when I finally did, I was so proud of myself. Like, oh my goodness, I finally kept track of how many train cars there were. But then I got bored with it the next few times that I tried, so I'm like, nope, I give up. So it's getting really wide. You know, there's always a point in a drawing where you wonder, okay, is this actually going to turn out as I want it to? And then you take a step back and really look at it, and you're like, oof, I don't know if this is actually going to work. But then if you take another step back and you just look at it for what it is, it's a lot more encouraging. Let's see here. I'm gonna try to keep the same distance from the edge all the way around. There we go. And you know what? This reference picture doesn't have this, but we're gonna add a train number. Of course, with a train this old, I don't know if they actually had them on there at this point. But like I said, this is my train, so I'm adding it. We're gonna come back and come with we're gonna come back and come up with a number for that in a little bit. I need to actually make myself get the rest of the train drawn before I focus on details. I'm trying to do this as evenly as possible, which is really hard when you have a camera in the way. Let's see here. So there's 2 long poles right here, one on each side, and they go down to the base of the train. So I'm going to try to replicate that. How far did I come up? Let's see. I have to keep tapping the electronic that I have my reference picture on because it keeps going dark. Originally, when I had the idea to do a realistic scene and it was chosen, I'm like, oh hey, I'm gonna do a cabin in the woods with a sunset coming through the trees. I tried and it just would not cooperate. I couldn't get the colors to do what I wanted. I couldn't get the mediums to do what I wanted. So I'm like, you know what? It's just gonna have to be for another time. Plus, I've really been wanting to do this train. Probably been wanting to do this train for about, since like the middle of last year, but I never got the courage to do it. see. It almost looks like steps. But you know what? We're gonna make it different. It doesn't have to be steps. I've never ridden on an actual train. I've ridden on the little trains that they have in zoos, but I think it would be so cool to get on an actual passenger train and take a trip. I think that would just be amazing. Let's see here. Okay, how far does the base come out? You know, I think it's interesting how, like, the history of trains and stuff, and how it's interesting to imagine the people coming out west way back in the day. It was either a train or wagon. And, like, can you imagine the first ride on a train? That had to be so scary. Like, oh my goodness, is this thing actually gonna get me where I'm going? And now, now we just have cars that do that. And airplanes. But I wonder I wonder what the guy that invented trains, I wonder what, like, prompted him to say, hey, let's get a huge metal thing on wheels, fuel it by coal and fire, and make it ride metal tracks all the way across the United States. And then let's put people in it and make it go really, really, really fast and not have seatbelts. I wonder, like, how long it took him to come up with that. Oof, that's really short. I need to make that longer. I mean, the thought of riding in what I just described a train to be would be really, really scary. And I could see how several people would not want to try it. I could see how a lot of people would not want to try it. But, I mean, that's basically what the interstate is now. It's a lot, except it's a lot of multiple different drivers going, honestly, an insane amount of speed, all in these tiny little lanes on the road, trusting each other to not make a fatal error. I mean, it's obvious through all the accidents that have been reported how dangerous driving is. And someone was like, you know what, let's make it to where all these cars can go the same way at 80 miles an hour, so close together. That way they can get home faster. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for the interstate. I drive it every day. But it is quite an interesting thought when you think about how it actually had to be thought up by people and they thought it was a good idea. I mean, it is a good idea. It's a very dangerous one, but okay. It's actually looking like a train now, y'all. Yay! I think it is. I hope it is. Okay, don't start detailing yet. I need to finish this. Okay, so where my parents live, you can hear a train every night. There's one about like 5 minutes from their house. There's a train track. And during the night, you can hear the train whistle. And then the coyotes start howling. We had some friends that lived like right in front of a railroad track. And I always wondered how they slept at night because of the trains coming through. Okay, so we're gonna have 5 of these little grid things on both sides. So let me space it out right, please. Okay, so we have 2 there, thinking 1 here, here, and here. There we go. So I've discovered, and this is something that I have to keep rediscovering in art, but sometimes the less detail you give something, the more realistic it looks. And that is something that is so hard for me to do because I am such a detail-oriented person. I love details. I love making sure that everything is really detailed, really nice. And so it's really hard for me to back up and be like, okay, the less I do, the better it looks. And I don't know, I feel like that might be the case here. Like, the less I do on some parts, the better it's gonna look. And then the more I do on some parts, the better it's gonna look. Okay. See, I am gonna bring this out a little bit more because that's gonna need to be shaded. These definitely are not as even as I wanted them. Probably should have started from the farther end. Oh well. It is what it is. It's all part of learning. Okay, I need to fit 2 more. Okay. Awesome. All right, now we have the grate done. Let me pull my reference picture back up. Perfect. Okay. See, before I go back and work on this part, I think I need to add the rails. It's a very important part for a train. Let's see here. Is that there? Okay. And now we gotta do the same thing on the other side. Alright, so it's about here. Okay. Now we need to put in the railroad ties. I don't know what I'm gonna do between the ties because I don't really feel like drawing gravel. That would be a lot. I don't know why I'm doing this with pencil when I'm gonna come back and color it over. Oh well, I'll still do it. Maybe it'll add more depth whenever I color it over. Okay, awesome. Now we can go back here. Let's see. So this train has these little windows up here. So I'm just gonna copy that because I think it's cute. And also it would be functional. Now this picture that I'm using also has an engineer and conductor, but I'm focusing on the train. Also, I really don't want to have to draw a person. A realistic person anyway. Not on this scale. Okay, so gonna do a little design that they have. I don't know whether to make this round or pointed. No, we're gonna do square. That's even better. Okay. Okay. There we go. And I think that is good for, ooh, we got the steam. We gotta add that. It's a steam engine, so. Okay, let's see. Just gonna add a few little cloud lines. I don't think that's enough steam. I think we need more. We're gonna kind of drag it over that way. All right, now I'm gonna just sign it. Okay, now that took a little bit to draw, so y'all might not like this, but I'm going to split this into 2 parts. So this is part 1 where I drew it, and I'm gonna add a little bit more detail and then we're gonna cut it off, and part 2 will be uploaded right after this one, and it will be the coloring of this because I don't want y'all to get too bored with the video, and I don't want the video to be too long, and I'm still working on learning how to edit, so but I'm just gonna give these windows little frames real quick. Very wobbly frames. Okay. And oh, I completely forgot about the numbers. See, we're gonna do little 1. We're gonna do an 8. And we're gonna do a 3. And a 9. 1839. There we go. Now, I think that's good. Add a little bit of a face to this. And yeah, there we go. So I will see y'all for part 2. Peace out.